Hey, I'm always checking it. Let's just see if it's showing up. There we are. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, 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 everyone. It is Thursday night, Expired Mindsets Live. First, want to say we made goal. So, I'm telling you,
Congratulations.
thank you. I don't even think I'm so non-competitive, and raising funds to me,
So hard.
is
Asking for
so
money is
hard.
so hard.
Asking is so hard, but I was like, it's about the message, it's about the passion. But that's also why I am so excited to have our guest tonight, Miss Nathalie Santa Maria. And part of that is because you are the founder of a nonprofit called Leaves from Stella.
Mhm.
And every dollar that we now bring in, so the more people, you guys, that continue to purchase books and do all the things, it's not just extra money that I'm going to take and go shopping with. It will be used to support the mission and vision of this nonprofit. And I wanted to present her to you, but also just let you hear your heart and your passion, because I remember when I was connected with you and
Mhm.
it was so moving, but I don't even know that it also kind of turned on a part of me in my own story of loss,
Mhm.
and it made so much sense.
Mhm.
And the book, which I didn't intend, also covers a lot of loss in
Mhm.
that part of my life. So I knew when I had the opportunity to campaign and fundraise, there was never any doubt for me that this was where I wanted to invest
Aw.
in this message. But that being said, tell us a little bit about you,
Yeah.
and then Leaves from Stella and your story and how they
Okay.
connect.
All right. Well, it means the world to me that you thought of Lise from Stella and that you came into my life in 2020. You were like the highlight of my 2020. um, so Leaves from Stella is a passion project that I thought of maybe a couple years ago, and I just didn't have the means or the time or the bandwidth to really do it. Um, and so when I finished my master's in family, youth, and community sciences at the University of Florida, I said, okay, I'm going to start this nonprofit. This is what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so I lost my dad in 2008 and my mom in 2010.
Wow.
I was 21 and 23 at the time. They had been critically ill since my dad got sick when I was 10. He had a cerebral hemorrhage and quadruple bypass, mitral valve replacement, multiple thrombosis, 2 or 3 strokes in the span of those 11 years. And then my mom developed during this, my mom developed acquired ataxia, and that transitioned to multiple system atrophy. So
So you were already growing up, because this is the first time that I am also hearing all of this.
mhm,
I had no idea you lost them so closely, but then my mind immediately goes to you're 10, and
mhm,
even just what I know with child development, how that would have changed your life to
mhm.
have a chronically ill parent that you're always just kind of wondering what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
Wow.
my sister's 10 years older than me, so she really took the brunt of showing up as an adult,
Mhm.
and my mom was very much trying to shield me from everything that was happening.
Mhm.
My dad even joked, like when I went to go see him after his quadruple bypass, you know how they have like the ports on the tummy.
Yeah.
He joked with me that it was the chupacabra that he fought like
Okay,
way
what is
back.
that? Yeah, what is that?
It's like a blood-sucking lizard. It's like
Oh,
like
oh,
a urban legend that I don't know if it's just Hispanics or
yeah.
not, but
Okay. So you're like, did you laugh, or were you like,
I laughed. And then I
okay.
was like, really, Dad, did you fight him? And my mom was like horrified. She's like, do not tell her that.
No,
So
no.
he had, I mean, my dad is known for his good sense of humor. He carried around a whoopee cushion. He wouldn't wear his
Yeah.
dentures, like,
Oh,
but it was like being in and out of hospitals was our
mhm.
reality. And
Wow.
Um, it wasn't until I got older that I realized like how on the brink of losing our home we were. How why my mom was as frugal as she was, like literally counting every penny of
Yeah.
earn, fixed income when she
Mhm.
couldn't work anymore. My dad couldn't work.
Yeah.
Social Security telling my mom, like, you're faking your illness, like you don't qualify, like having to justify her
Wow.
illness. Like it's just a, so like, you just have to grow up so fast.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, by the time I got to college, I got a full ride to University of Florida.
Amazing.
And thank you.
Mhm.
That's my dream school.
Woo!
And but I had to move back home because I came during Thanksgiving weekend, and I was
Mhm.
helping my dad pay the bills. At the time, my mom could no longer write, and she was the one that managed the funds. She was way more fiscally responsible
Yes.
than my
Yes.
father.
All right.
And I asked my dad, I said, Dad, what is this bill from the fire rescue? And he's like, I had to call them 2 or 3 times this month because your mom fell and I can't lift her. And if you call
Oh.
911 more than a certain number of times, apparently the ambulance and the fire rescue in the city that we lived in start charging you for each of those calls.
Wow. And if anyone has ever had this experience, it is so expensive
It is. It's
to
like
call an ambulance.
$700 a
Yeah.
call, and they're there
Yeah.
for like 3 seconds,
Right.
even if they don't transport you anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was like, I need to be here. Like the
Mhm.
reality that they may not make it past my college graduation, it
Mhm.
just kind of dawned on me that my 20s were not going to be like everybody else's 20s.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I made that decision because I graduated a little bit early, but I was set to graduate in 2007 with
Mhm.
my undergrad degree, and my dad died in 2008. So like that would have been lost time with them,
Yeah.
trying to have this college life and then not worry about them.
Mhm.
Um,
And I will
so
jump in for a second and say I can relate to a part of that because I was in college when I received the news that my mom had stage 4 cancer. And I do remember that jolt of everything is changing.
mhm,
I don't know all the answers to how yet, but it's a very different reality. Like you move from, oh, I'm a college student
mhm,
to should I be here?
mhm,
Do I even want to stay here? Because I want to be with my loved ones, not knowing how
yeah,
it's going to work out. So it even just getting some type of information or seeing that writing on the wall just takes away the frivolousness,
mhm.
that some people get during that season in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's a stage of transition, and it's a stage. It can also, like, you're figuring out stuff about yourself, and you're like, am I
Yeah.
prioritizing the right things? Because
Mhm.
you're kind of pulled with, I want to be young and I want to have fun,
Yeah.
but the reality is, I have to come home. I have to buy some diapers. I got to change diapers. I got to clean stuff up. I got to go pick up meds. Like,
Yeah.
it was a different perspective, I
Mhm.
think.
Mhm.
And I like, when I left to college was when I developed my anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And my panic attacks were very bad. Like,
Mhm.
I couldn't get up for days. My
Yeah.
clarity was terrible. And like in many communities, a lot of people in my family, like my mom and my dad, both had depression
Mhm.
because of their condition.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people in my family are just like, suck it up, come on, let's go. And I was just like, I can't get
Yeah.
out of bed, and I don't know why I feel this impending doom. I mean, I kind of did. Like, I was like, my
Well,
parents
you
are
kind of
dying and
just
I can't save them.
yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I can tell you, but no, I get it. But the other thing I will say too is find that so much, and what a lot of times we don't recognize is when we've gone through these really hard times and they're constant, like you
Hmm.
describe, the challenge is we become situationally efficient, but
Hmm.
internally we're breaking apart. But
Hmm.
people assume, oh, they're doing so good. They handle things so well because you know how to handle these really big situations outwardly.
Yeah.
But then inside,
Yeah.
it's yeah, your
It's a
body's like, this is too much. Yeah,
it's a constant state of panic,
yeah,
nausea. I lost 15 pounds. Like, I mean, you could see my clap. Like, it was an unhealthy
yeah,
time. And I was running on adrenaline all the time. Like, it was
yeah.
like, you couldn't call my cell phone without my jumping. And I was like, who is it? Is there somebody in trouble? Like, it was
Yeah.
this constant of
Trauma.
somebody sick. Yeah. It was just constant trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I'll sprinkle in that my maternal grandmother died in March of 2007. my paternal grandmother died in March of 2008. So it was three of my matriarchs and my dad in a span of 4 years.
I mean, I'm almost speechless because
It was, I'm like shaking
that's
right
your
now, like
whole,
reliving
yeah.
this.
No, breathe, honestly, because it is a lot. Breathe.
It is
Like
a lot.
that is literally feeling like your whole world
It's
and the
falling apart.
people and the things, yeah, that you think someone will be here for me when I need to crumble. That is so much. And
My sister.
that's just the big losses, right? You know,
Mhm.
like there's a million other little tiny losses that happen every day
Mhm.
in that situation. So then how did that connect you to deciding to do this nonprofit? Because I'm also imagining that that keeps everything so fresh, which may not always be easy.
Well, I've done a lot of therapy.
Good for you.
I have done genetic counseling to like control my anxiety about
Yeah.
developing the same illness as my mom. Because there was a lot of non-answers.
Hmm.
I've done cognitive behavioral therapy to kind of, what I can control and staying present and being appreciative of the moments. Like the shoe is not going to drop all moments of every moment of my life for the
Yeah.
rest of my life.
Are you sure?
Are
Yeah.
you sure?
Uh-huh.
So my mom, when she died, my mom had a plant called we call it una malanguita. So it's a
I love
peperomia.
it. Hmm.
It's behind me, right
Yes.
this side.
Mine is over there and it's still alive.
Yay! It's a
Big
very
deal for
resilient
me.
plant. It's
Thank
a very
God.
resilient
It
plant.
is.
So my mom left that plant. My brother-in-law, he propagated it and said, "Here's one for you and one for your sister."
Yeah.
And so we kind of maintained them. And I thought to myself, my parents came to this country to give me and my sister a better opportunity. I was the first generation born here. My sister was born in Cuba and she came when she was 7.
Hmm.
And my dad, even while I was in high school, he's like, "You're not working. You need a scholarship. I can't afford college. Like school, 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 education,
Yeah.
education, education." Even when they were sick, they're like, "You're not quitting school. This is your opportunity." Like
Right.
they knew that this was that launch pad that I needed to be able
Yeah.
to sustain myself when
Hmm.
they were no longer around.
Yeah.
And they knew they weren't going to be around for a
Right.
super long time. So,
And let me just acknowledge that also sounds like so much pressure.
get
To
a
also,
scholarship,
yeah,
get a
get a
4.0.
scholarship, get a 4.0, get a full ride because we may not be here. Okay. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
problem. Sure. Like,
And in a very encouraging way, though. My dad was
of
very
course.
much like very big on education. And my mom was they were both so smart.
Yeah.
My mom was an instrumentalist in Cuba, in the OR, and then she
Oh,
did medical assistant school here. And really, the language barrier was what stopped her from becoming an RN at some point.
wow.
But she
Mhm.
was, she just had that bedside manner
Yeah.
that she's so good. So, it kind of dawned on me. I said, it was really isolating when I was in that 18, 20, 21, and then when my parents died, nobody knew how to talk to me about it.
Mm.
Nobody else in my peer group had been through what I had been through.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to relate to other folks or find the support that I needed
Mhm.
outside of my family that was enduring this too, right? Like you
Right.
kind of wanted an outsider
Right.
that you could be like, I relate, or you're
Mhm.
not alone, or I promise that this at some point is going to get a little bit easier. Like
Yeah.
you're never going to stop missing them, but
Right.
the days aren't going to be as dark as they are right now
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, a little bit of what my parents always said, education, education. And
Mhm.
if I wouldn't have transferred right at that moment, I would have lost my full ride.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that that feeling of, do I pause
Mhm.
my future
Mhm.
and what I want to do to get ahead to
Mhm.
take care of someone, or because someone passed, is something that it's kind of the essence of why I started Leaves from Stella.
Mhm.
Because whether you want to do vocational school, or you're like right at that last semester and you just gotta get it out, finish it up,
Mhm.
or you're just getting started, like
Mhm.
you need money for the applications to get into colleges,
Yeah.
and the like. So,
Or even someone to help you fill out the applications,
mhm,
right? Because I have a freshman and a junior in college right now, and I was kind of telling them about you and the organization, and they kind of keep up with what I do, and I just said, "Can you guys imagine if, like, Dad and I weren't here and something happened to us?" And they were both like, "We would fall apart." Because I think of all the times that they even just call back to go, "How do I do this again?" All these questions.
Mhm.
So it's that, like, there's no one to call.
There's
And
no
then
one.
tell me if this is something that you experienced as well. When you go through things that grow you up so fast, it can also be really challenging to even relate to your peers because the
Mhm.
things that are important to them really don't feel as important.
Yeah.
And so that also creates that distance of
Yeah.
not wanting to or not feeling like you belong with your
Yeah.
peers.
In my peers and in my jobs, I mean, when my mom passed, I think I reached a point of anger and exhaustion.
Mhm.
And someone would ask me for a project. I'd be like, this doesn't matter. My mom just died. Like,
Yeah.
you write your own letter. Like, I took a sabbatical after that because I was not in a good place.
Understandably so.
I was not as nice as I am right now. And I recognize that I was
Sure.
not in a good place. But it soured a lot of my, like, it soured a lot of my life in terms of perspective. Like,
Mhm.
people who just didn't get it, I was just like,
I have no time for you. Yeah.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
I have zero patience to
Mhm.
explain why what you're freaking out about is
Not a big deal.
tiny in this
I
grand scheme of
know.
things.
I know.
And then also, like, trying to not get mad when, folks tell me, I'm not a very religious person.
Mhm.
And so, like, when people say to me, like, it was their time, they're in a better place with God, and I'm like, no, their better place is at home with me,
Yeah.
because I wasn't done growing up. I wasn't done meeting my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
So those little slights over time, I was just like, for a while, I want to work somewhere where no one knows that this is my life, and I don't want to tell anybody about it. And I didn't for a while.
Yeah.
And then I realized in therapy that this is this is who I am. That loss
Mhm.
and that experience shaped how I work,
Yeah.
how I write,
Mhm.
why I care about diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Mhm.
why I want to do Hispanic and Latinx outreach. Like, all of the elements of my identity are tied to that
Yeah.
experience.
It's your lens and
And I
it's your
can't
most
change that.
powerful lens and you can't change that. So tell us, Leaves from Stella, as a nonprofit, how are you hoping that it will help bridge the gap and create support for students who are experiencing loss within that 18 to 25
Yeah.
range?
So our goal is to issue scholarships. Depending on how much we fundraise, would really depend on the size of the gift and the
Mhm.
and the quantity of students who get them. We're hoping to start in the fall, and ideally, we would want to know who you lost,
Mhm.
how that's impacted educational attainment, what educational attainment means to you. I
Yeah.
mean, we really don't want to restrict it to a particular university or tuition only,
Right.
because it could be for vocational school or laptop or something that you need to do what you need to do.
Right.
And then it has a pen friends component.
Mhm.
So, and this idea came to me. I'm part of a grief group called the Dinner Party, and it's specifically for 20 and 30-year-olds who've lost somebody.
Mhm.
And they kind of get together and break bread once a month or twice a month, depending on your table. And I thought to myself, I would have benefited from this when I was in college or just
Mhm.
after,
Mhm.
because that age range it's just isolating your peers.
It
It's
really
really
is.
hard to find peers that get what you're going through. And it would have really, to have a mentor who would know exactly how I feel and would
Mhm.
just check in
Yeah.
and say, how are you doing? Can I help you with anything?
Yeah.
Here's a
Huge.
funny meme I thought, like, I
Yeah.
saw, and it reminded me of you. Or if they know that you're job hunting at this point, they can
Mhm.
kind of help you.
Mhm.
So that is just someone who can see with that same lens that you do.
Mhm.
I feel like would be really beneficial
Yeah.
to the students beyond just the scholarship recipient piece.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my vision. And
Yeah.
then all of the scholarship recipients get propagated cutting of my mom's original plant.
Yeah, which I love.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the name because I just, you think about how I can propagate this, I can plant it in new soil, it can go to a new home and it can
Yeah.
thrive.
Hmm.
I feel like the same concept can happen to people if you really kind of just nurture and give them a chance to just
Hmm.
take a breath after
Yeah.
something so scary,
Mhm.
and really kind of finding their footing.
Yeah, I love that. So, first thing I will say is so anyone out there who just has a lot of money on the side that you don't know what to do with, Leaves from Stella is the place to be. But no, I do. I think it is such a huge need. There's not a lot of nonprofits and organizations out there that aren't typically connected to like a school or a certain
Mhm,
organization. A lot of times, in order for people to get that access, they
mhm.
have to already be a part of something, and there's all of these barriers. So I do. That was one of the things that struck me. I love that it doesn't just have to be to stay in school. It might be I need to get a headshot so that I can get a job in this
And
company.
acting or something. Yeah.
Right, but headshots are not cheap,
No.
and while that may seem small and frivolous, when you all of a sudden also go from there is no one to call home to and no one to say, I have this expense, can you help me? And then I can pay you back later. That's a very real fear that not everybody experiences. And you're trying to do that while staying in school, if you're in school or working on a vocation and managing your grief and all the other decisions
Yeah,
that you need to make
absolutely.
and want to make. So, no, I think that is invaluable. Is there anything else that I haven't given you the opportunity to share about your experience or Leaves from Stella that you want to add?
Um, I mean, I think there's value in numbers, and I knew going into this, I was like, I cannot be the only person that's gone through this. And I looked at some feasibility studies, and I was shook, like beside myself when I found the childhood bereavement estimation model. And they did this study with, I think it's the Knight Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Judy's House. It's a big cohort, and they found that in the United States, 1 in 14 children and adolescents will lose a parent or a sibling by the time they're 18, and that doubles to 5.2 million or 13.2 million by the
Yeah.
time they're 25.
Yeah.
That is a lot of loss. And I don't know if I'm in my own echo chamber of
Yeah.
Zoom or what, but I
Mhm.
know when I was growing up, nobody talked about this. Nobody wants to talk about death. And we are all going to experience the loss of someone that we love. That is part of our life.
Yeah.
And if I can make it a little bit easier for someone to go through that and
Yeah.
it's not as isolating, I
Mhm.
feel like I this is my purpose.
Yeah.
My pain, this is now my purpose.
Yeah. And the other thing that I will add, that study was done well before
COVID.
COVID.
And they already said that they're not going to have COVID numbers until 2022.
Right. But by the time those come out and we,
Mhm.
know that we've had over 500,000 people lose their lives, that is going to exponentially increase in
Need.
terms of need. So it's a very real thing. And I will say because of my own experience and then raising kids at this age right now, as well as just other families that I've spoken to and talked to, it's such a crucial age that I do believe gets thrown under the radar in
Mhm.
terms of not really being very heavily focused on the need. We're really great about younger students sometimes, and people can find their own resources around 30 and above is when they kind of settle in. But I believe a lot of people, when we sit back and think about the choices that we made or the opportunities we did or didn't have in that time, depending upon what's going on, they're going to need our support, and they're going to need it, I feel like, even more now than ever before. Like they've always needed it, and it's just going to continue. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The most pivotal choices I feel like I've made in my life were where in my 20s. And
mhm,
it really took my life in one journey or the other.
Yeah.
and it could be good or it could be bad.
Yeah.
And so if we can always focus on the right route and the good, I think that we want to do that. And the other, if I have time, I wanted to add that
Sure.
a lot of the scholarships that are out there are very specific to 9/11, children of veterans, cancer.
Yeah.
But what about the messy deaths? What about homicides? What about suicide? What
Mhm.
about the ones that are stigmatized and no one wants to talk about? The people experience the same level of pain, and there's just not that much resources for people
Mhm.
who experience that. So I also want to make it open in that sense. Like loss
Mhm.
is loss,
Absolutely.
whether your relationship with your loved one was contentious or not, it was loving. It
Mhm.
it it is a burden, and it's a hole in your soul that is
Agreed.
so hard to fill.
Agreed.
And we really kind of want to make that open to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
And we're training our board on adverse childhood experience to kind of understand how this all goes, and
Right.
trying to come up with resources for folks,
Mhm.
tailored to the recipients that apply. So
Yeah.
we're really committed to making it a well-rounded experience for our scholarship recipients.
Yeah. I again so appreciate you taking the time to kind of go into your loss and pain and share it. It is hard. I again have my own experiences of loss, and I remember someone talking about getting older, and I was like, if you knew what I've been through in my 20s, I'm okay right now. This is great. It's hard,
I'm
but
smooth
it's a different
sailing
part.
right
Right.
now.
It's different. It's so, so different. But I appreciate you taking, the time to share with
Thank
everybody.
you.
And anyone who's connected to me, this will not be the last time that you hear about this. I do think the two go hand in hand, and we're all grieving something.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
anytime that we can take, yes, our struggles and our pain and turn it into purpose, that's just a powerful way to take a really awful experience and pay it forward and help someone else know I don't understand your experience because it's unique to you, but I will be a listening ear and support you any
I'll
way.
be in your corner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can.
absolutely. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate your time, and we
I
will
appreciate
chat
you.
soon.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.